if you talk to any Syrian, the first thing they'll brag about Syria is its diversity. That's what they love. It's always been the first talking point from when I was a kid up until now. You look at interviews, always they'll say it's because it's so diverse. It just has this massive history.
You're listening to the Speaking Tongues podcast. I'm your host, El Charisse. Each week, I sit down to a conversation with multilinguals where we discuss and celebrate language, life, and culture through our own perspectives. Welcome back to another episode of Speaking Tongues. I'm here today with Paul. Paul is a Syrian American author and musician currently living in Philadelphia. He discusses the history, culture, and current events of the Swana region on social media. We love his content. We learn so much from Paul every single day. I'm so happy to have you here on the podcast, Paul. How are you?
I'm great. So happy to be here.
This is a dream come true for me to talk to you because I love your content. I love your point of view. I love how you give it to us straight all the time. And I really value that. And I think it's so refreshing when you pop up on my scroll. So I'm just thrilled to talk to you. I like to
High
start.
praise. Thank you.
I like to start each episode with the same question, which is, what is your first language and which languages have you learned to speak?
My first language, which many people don't know, is technically Arabic. I spoke it when I was a very young toddler, but I was living in Texas. So as soon as I started having to go to babysitters and stuff, I switched to English and consider that my native language. And I forgot and then relearned and forgot and relearned Arabic on it in a cycle my whole life at this point.
Yeah. So it's an ongoing journey, staying connected to the language for you.
It is an ongoing journey. The dialect is Syrian Arabic, Levantine Arabic, and that's what my mom speaks. My dad is, white Texan. So definitely went a big chunk of my young life not really speaking much Arabic at all. Went to Syria for the first time when I was 9, and then moved to the Middle East, mostly Saudi Arabia and Bahrain in my teens, just when I took my first formal Arabic lessons and started to learn not just how to speak Arabic, but to read it and write it. And then back to America, forgot it a little more, back to Syria more often in summers, and we kind of relearned it conversationally, and then revolution started and forgot it again. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, although there's a lot more Arabic on the internet these days, the last few years. So I've actually noticed it coming back a little bit more, which is interesting.
That's great.
The other day, it just totally randomly, I had to help a poor young delivery driver who was lost in my neighborhood, and he couldn't call the phone because he didn't speak English. So he was just like, help me find this address. And he showed me his phone and it was all in Arabic. And so I just switched over to Arabic, and he was so excited that he had picked just the one random guy, like who could like speak a little bit with him. And so it was very, it's very toddler level, but especially giving directions. That's one of the things they always teach you in like the classes. So
yeah,
I was like, oh, I know this. You mean, you saw, So it was a pretty fun experience. I was like, oh, you just surprise yourself sometimes.
Yeah, that's exciting. I would be telling everybody about that for days.
He might be. He'd be like, you'll never guess what just happened in Philly in the middle of nowhere. It's pretty funny.
So you're growing up in Houston and you're among Arabic-speaking community at various points in your upbringing. What was that like? What was that dynamic like in Houston? And are we seeing large Arabic speaking community and connection in Houston?
Yeah, Texas has a pretty fair share of Arab immigrants who ended up there for just a variety of reasons. And each city, Texas is massive. It's a small country. So each city kind of has its own little community in there. When I was really young, I wasn't super clocked into that, right? Because, I left Texas when I was 12. But I know that my mom was very connected to them, and she lives in San Antonio now, which arguably, Houston is huge. It's a very diverse city, which we love. San Antonio actually also has a very big Arab community there. And, it usually manifests in less expected, or I guess maybe expected, but yeah, it's like it's the markets and the New Year's celebrations and things like that I remember going to when I was young that we just happened to have because we were in this big diverse city like Houston. And if nothing else, and then we had the food, all the food we needed. My mom could get her ingredients and cook it at home. And it's just that's the same thing in San Antonio. You can walk into some of the Middle Eastern markets, Mediterranean markets there, and it would look right at home anywhere in the Middle East. So yeah, absolutely, it's there.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's you correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when a lot of people think about Texas, they think of like Yosemite Sam, or they think of, big 10-gallon hat, big belt buckle and boots and rodeos and very much that Texas lore that has
Sure.
persisted for such a very long time. And I'm always very excited to hear about how much diversity, ethnic diversity there is, and linguistic diversity there is in Texas that's not just a result of history with Mexico and the Texican history, I guess some people would say. But I think it's very exciting to hear that these communities exist and that they're thriving and that they're growing. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Houston in particular, right? People don't really understand, I think, the kind of a place that it is. Like even like Mo, like if you watch the Netflix show Mo, it's set a few miles from the little podunk suburb of Houston that I grew up in. He's an A-leaf. I'm from Sugarland, right? So I mean, we recognize that place. It's just like that. It's a huge community. And like Hanuman Kind, that rapper just who recently went viral last year or whatever, he's South Asian, but he's actually from Houston. And I don't know. It's just super, super diverse. I mean, it's right there next to Louisiana and Baton Rouge and all that stuff. So it, Texas obviously has its problems in terms of its governance, but I mean, and you can go to Dallas and pretty much see the Texas you're expecting, but I mean, but I
Can
mean,
confirm.
but no hate to Dallas. I got family there. I'm just saying you'll find that Texas there, but it's not really the full story, and especially in the towns and the cities, and if in very specifically in Houston. Everybody talks about how Austin is so different and blah blah blah, but honestly, Houston has an amazing food scene, incredibly diverse culture, and it is growing just because if people can stand the heat, then they're just like, that's the kind of Texas I want to be in. So yeah, I feel fortunate. I feel like that I got that kind of broad experience of definitely being in Texas, kind of a little bit rural, suburbia, but it's rural, at least when I was there. But then also having this beautiful, totally accepting mishmash of culture at all times. So yeah.
I want to talk about your journey through Arabic, which has had its stops and starts through various points of your life. What has that been like for you? What has it felt like for you? What were some things that made you step away? What were some things that made you return to learning Arabic? And how has this all impacted your life? And how has it felt for you to be on this path with the Arabic language, with Syrian Arabic?
Sure. Just kind of going off of what we were just talking about, growing up as a Syrian American, a very pale appearing Syrian, I didn't have a beard when I was 10 years old, right? So I looked even less Arab than I do now. And it's a very unique experience. Growing up in Sugar Land as a Syrian American, not a whole lot of other people out there, like at least not in your neighborhood, not on the school bus, not on that sort of a thing. Definitely not majority white where I went to school, but Arabs less so. Like for example, my name is Paul Nabil Matthis. My middle name was not something that anybody could pronounce in America when I was a kid. That was pre all the wars. It wasn't in the news. It was pre 9 all that stuff. Nobody had even heard of Syria. They didn't know where it was as a country. So I didn't bring it up that much, I guess, is what I would say. If sometimes I have very distinct memories of people discovering what my middle name was and being very confused of that. And I would play this game where like they would try to make fun of me for it or bully me for having a weird name. And I would say, well, if you can figure out how to pronounce it, then you can make fun of me for it. And so then the game, it was a very good deflection because then they would stop trying to like make fun of it, and then they would play the actual game of trying to figure out how it's pronounced. And nobody ever got it. That's how Southern we were. Is not a single person ever said Nabil. It was always Nabil or Nabil or Nabil. It's weird stuff. That's definitely the kind of environment where my mom decided to stop speaking Arabic, just so I would have fluent English and not kind of get. She was worried I would develop some sort of resentment for it, which was my mom is very wise. Probably we talked about it, and it was important to us, and we kept track of the politics. Like my mom was always watching the news and all that kind of stuff, but didn't really discuss it that much. And then all of a sudden, we moved overseas, and obviously that all changed, and we could just it was just one. It was the one of the language classes they offered at school, so that was a huge swap, really, in terms of what school was like and what our life was like, and mentioning it and stuff. Everybody in Saudi Arabia knows how to pronounce Nabil, so the game would not work there.
Tell me about your time in Saudi and in Bahrain. Like I said that too fast. Bahrain.
No, you're great. Bahrain. You can just say
Bah-
Bahrain.
Bahrain.
It's Saudi, eh? Bahrain.
Saudi.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's impossible to say. Just say Saudi and Bahrain. If you
It's
can get
not-
any sort of H in the Bahrain, like you're good to go.
It's not impossible. It's just that I have not had a lot of experience with the guttural sounds, and I need to work on it.
Yeah. Well, that is the hardest H for people who didn't grow up with it to pronounce. Just there's three H's. It's the regular H, huh, and then the harsh H, which is usually transliterated KH, which is huh, and then the middle H is really, really hard because you always want to go either one or the other. So teaching people that middle H, the huh, I tell people to make the same H that you would when you're about to clean off your glasses. So like when you take your glasses off and you go, yeah, exactly, you just did it. Like it's a harsher H, but it's not a ha ha, and it's not a ha ha because that doesn't get enough air out. It's just ha ha ha, and that's the H.
Okay,
So-
so say it and let me repeat after you.
So I'll say it in like an actual Arabic accent. Bahrain.
Bah. Oh.
See, you went too far. That's exactly right. But you would never try and clean your glasses by going ha ha, would you?
Right.
No.
So, okay, Bahrain.
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 That was really good. That's really good.
Whoa, I'm a quick
Yeah.
study.
So so the first one you got mixed up because you went to the back of the palate R. When you
Mhm.
switch to the rolled R, the whatever called dental R, whatever, that's when your mouth could make the shape Bahrain.
Bahrain. Okay.
Yeah, your previous one was a little better because you lost that R a little bit, but I see it coming on. I see it there. It's happening.
I need practice. I don't like to discourage myself by saying things are hard, things are difficult, because I haven't had experience with it. So why would I be expected to know how to say it right away unless
Yeah,
I'm
of
lucky?
course.
So
Yeah,
I
of
like
course.
to encourage like practice and
Yeah.
giving it a try. But
Yeah. So in Arabs are very used to the fact that nobody outside can say them. So you get this kind of uncanny valley of people kind of getting close. It's very similar to why they don't try to teach you like their Chinese name in Mandarin. It's kind of the same effect. Where it's better if you just don't, because you can't hear it when you're wrong. But Arabic, I think, if you like a great example is Iraq. So when I speak English, I say Iraq, and every Arab will be so happy to hear you say Iraq because it's not Iraq. Iraq is upsetting. Iraq is perfectly fine. Nobody will ever have any problem with you saying Iraq.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of a thing where like if you do the English version but with the right stresses and vowels, to us that's the same thing as if you said it bil Arabi. That's perfect. Thank you. Even when we speak English, we don't all of a sudden say Mus for Egypt. When we speak English, we say Egypt. So it's like we get it. We totally get it.
Yeah. So let me give this another shot. And you said Saudi. You said Saudi completely not the way I did with my New York accent. How did you say that?
Oh yeah. So Saudi has the sorry, I'm trying to absorb your positivity here. It's not the difficult A, it's the challenging A. It's a
Okay.
different A.
Hmm.
So the Arab A is actually we say or kind of, but it's actually usually more close to an So it's not actually Islam, it's Islam. Like right, it actually sounds weird to Americans because that they associate it with their own accent so much that it sounds weird in other people's languages. So they always want to
Hmm.
say Islam, which is fine. Does exist in Arabic, but
Hmm.
it's one of those things. That A is not the same. That's all one letter, and then there's a separate letter, which is the back of the mouth A, which is ah, and that is another very difficult sound to make because it's close to or ah, but it's not. It's ah, and that's the one in Saudi, right?
Okay.
Saudi. And I even when I say it, I sound a little Levantine because I say a at the end, but it should be so Saudi. But I kind of put a
Saudia.
little a on the end without thinking about it. But the Saudi, I it's a different a in there.
I know that letter.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like the number three, and it's like people learning Arabic have nightmares of it chasing them.
Oh my
And my
gosh.
even my pronunciation isn't perfect. Like a fluent speaker would probably hear that and be like, "Well, he's trying," but you know,
The effort's got to count for something.
yeah, it's pretty close. My pronunciation
Yeah.
is not too bad.
Yeah. This is probably the earliest in an episode that I've gotten a pronunciation lesson. So
Yeah,
I'm
sorry,
excited. Usually we
went
get through
right
this at
into
the
it.
end, but no, this is great because I apologize to my Arabic speaking friends, but my question for you is
Mm,
when you move to Saudi and
mhm.
Bahrain, Bahrain, and you're an Arabic speaker at whatever level that you are, how was it encountering the Arabic spoken in that region? As I understand, it differs from the Levantine Arabic that you're used to. What was navigating that like?
Very much so. So a lot of people are surprised that my Arabic isn't better because I lived in the Middle East for 4 years. One thing to keep in mind is that I led a very Americanized experience when I was over there. So my dad worked at a company that was from a European country. It was like a French company. So they spoke English and French there. My mom, when she finally did get a job, which was not the easiest thing to do at that point in Saudi, it was at a hospital where it was bilingual English and Arabic. My school was in English. All my friends spoke English as like our kind of lingua franca sort of thing. So you encountered Arabic, but you didn't tend to go places where they didn't have signs that were in both languages. So at no point in Saudi was almost ever was I required to speak fluent Arabic. So that was part of the story, and it's the same thing in Bahrain, which is like a little. It's more British than American, but it's still kind of it's the same basic story. You would go to like the malls or a restaurant or out or whatever and actually interact with Saudis sometimes, but it's a very kind of segregated sort of experience. If I'd been Muslim, it would be a different story, but my mom is Syrian Christian. So all these things. There's also the dialect, which you mentioned. So their dialect, it's in English, I think you would call it like Gulfi. The Arabic word for it is Khaliji. And that's the final H, the Kha, Khaliji. And that just means Gulf. And um, it's basically kind of peninsular Arabic, really, although that can get kind of a little complicated because then you have Oman and Yemen, which have their own dialects. But anyway, this kind of very peninsular Saudi sort of dialect is very different. And they do different letters and different words and all that stuff. And so because I had grown up at that point exclusively hearing Syrian Arabic, with the exception of when we were in Syria and it was like the TV was on, they would speak formally or something. But I really could not understand the Khaliji dialect almost at all. When we went to our first Arabic classes, which were offered by our school, they taught classical Arabic, Fusha, which is that's the type of Arabic that everybody speaks when they're dealing with an Arab who has a different dialect than them. It's kind of like a little like a spectrum. It's like a slider. So like they'll have like if my mom was talking to a Khaliji Arab, they might purposefully kind of slip a little bit less out of their dialect, but not quite go to full classical. But if my mom speaks to a really separate dialects, like when she went to Morocco, it's basically it's technically Arabic. They say it's Arabic, but it's basically a second language. It's a different language. So when she's in Morocco, she speaks almost fully classical Arabic, which most of the time they will understand. So when I started learning classical Arabic, it actually got me a little bit better at understanding the other dialects and stuff. And that also helped with the reading and the writing because you never write in dialects. You always write in classical. That was one of the little steps that I took to being not just a total Syrian villager when I try and speak. So like I guarantee you that the delivery guy immediately knew I was Syrian. No hesitation whatsoever. He was like, first of all, I look like this. I look very Syrian. And then he would like, as soon as I spoke, he was like, oh, cool. You're a Syrian American. Interesting. It's immediately they know. So yeah.
Yeah. I've said many times on this podcast that I'm very fascinated by the Arabic speaking world and how vast Arabic is across so much of the world, and how it's, how it changes, and how it's used, and how people connect to it. And I just think it's so cool that, regionally we have these dialects that are so distinct from one another. I'm fascinated by how people communicate, and that might sound a little simple, but I just love Arabic. I love listening to it. I think it's such a beautiful language. And so many beautiful cultures exist within, people who speak Arabic. So it's like, for me, it's a joy
Yeah.
to learn about.
There really is no other language tradition quite like it. It's very, very unique. I'm not putting it above other ones on a pedestal or anything,
Yeah, yeah.
but there's nothing else out there quite like it. It's solely the Arabic world, and it's not quite like anything else. It's very special.
Yeah. I remember when we spoke previously, you mentioned that you had a period of time, or maybe now, where you feel like your Arabic has been Americanized, or you feel like you have an American sort of spin when you speak Arabic. And I'd love for you to talk to us a bit about what that means, or what that means for you, or how you interpret that.
I linguistically, I'm not sure what that would mean. I mean, I still have because it's Bilad Hashem, which is that's like the Levantine region, and they were occupied by France after World War II and all that. There's a lot of kind of French words that they use, which I didn't even realize they were doing that. Like I didn't realize télévision was a French word that they just use for television, that kind of a thing. The Americanization of it is probably much more of a mentality thing. I think how I think about it from that standpoint, I definitely have an Arab American approach, and not like, even though I lived there for 4 years, like I said, even that was kind of a westernized version of living in a Arab country. So I definitely have an approach, and it's also my Syrian family is and was very progressive. They were like a bunch of like pseudo Maoist commies for a while in Syria. Like they were, it's kind of hard to put into words. When I say the word progressive, you have one thing like, no, you really have to understand. The Al-Zindi family is a prominent family in Syria. A lot of people will recognize the family name. And finally, just Arab culture is very closely tied to your religious background. There's a great joke I don't know what country, they definitely say this in the Lebanese Syrian region, which they're like, oh, what religion are you? And then you say, oh, I'm an atheist. And they're like, yes, but what kind of atheist? Muslim or Christian atheist? So that's kind of where it is. It's like, it's part of who you are, but like separate from what you like believe. But my mom's family is even confusing to Arabs on that level, because not only just because they moved to America and went to college there, but also because their family technically has a Muslim heritage, but that was associated, they're Ismaili, which is already a very small little clan. And then they split from the Aga Khan and became non-Ismaili Muslims. And then my Syrian grandfather became atheist and like as kind of like a modernization shakes his fist at the sky sort of a thing, married a Syrian Protestant Christian who has her own ancient, like path to how her family became Protestant Christians in Syria. So even that will confuse the hell out of most Arabs if they try and like, because they always Arabs, it's not nothing wrong with it. They just want to kind of know who they're talking to. When you tell them that story, they're like, I don't know who you are. I don't know anything about you. And then on top of all that, you're Texan. So so it actually is a bit of a relief, I think, a lot of the time when they hear that I have such a heavy Syrian accent, because language is obviously a huge part of Arab identity. It makes them sad that I'm not fluent, but it is kind of, well, at least I hear in your voice that you are a Syrian man at some point in your heritage. So yeah, like if I started spouting a bunch of Egyptian Arabic, they'd be like, now I don't know what to think.
This is what I make this podcast for, because this is a story that maybe doesn't fit into a narrative of what people from outside of Syria might think of Syrians. And it's so easy to paint with broad strokes. It's so easy to generalize people into, well, this is what those people do. This is what the people do. But it's good to hear individualistic stories that are different from that. And we don't like generalizations. We like to we like to hear what's going on.
Yeah, and I think that's a very uniquely Syrian thing. If you tell all that stuff I just said to a Syrian, they will just laugh and say, of course your story is like that. Syria is huge and more diverse than most other Arab countries in that Levantine region. So they're used to that kind of a story. And it's kind of non-Syrians who are a little more taken aback by it. So it's a very uniquely Syrian diversity.
Yeah. Tell me what makes Syria uniquely diverse.
Well, it's huge. It's the biggest. I think Saudi's bigger, but I forget exactly all the size comparisons, but it's massive. Definitely in that little Mediterranean region, and all the other countries touch it. It has every climate, like it's fertile. It's the Fertile Crescent, right? Dating back, like help birth civilization, just because of how many different climates it has. You go to different towns in Syria, and they will have. And you're like, oh, what's the cuisine here? And they're like, oh, whatever is fresh in this tiny farm village next to us right now in this time of year. And that's different from a city on the other side of the country, So if you talk to any Syrian, the first thing they'll brag about Syria is its diversity. That's what they love. It's always been the first talking point from when I was a kid up until now. You look at interviews, always they'll say it's because it's so diverse. It just has this massive history. It has a massive landmass. It has every possible climate you can think of. It has snowy mountains and deserts and all this. So I've never been, for example, to northeast Syria, which I've been all over the western part of it, to the coast and down Damascus and everything. But I've never been to the northeast. And apparently northeast is very Kurdish. It's one of the larger Jewish communities is in northeast Syria. Has this whole different culture because it's so next to Iraq and all this, and I don't know anything about it. I've never been. There's a whole like quadrant of Syria that I couldn't tell you about because it's just too much to explore. One day I'll get and see this big Kurdish Syrian community. I would love to, but haven't been there yet.
Tell me about the times that you've been able to visit Syria and the times you've been able to connect with family there and culture there, and what has that been like and what has it meant for you?
Sure. We started going most summers when I was 9 years old. My brother was 7. Even when my family didn't quite have the money, my mom was like, okay, well, you stay back and work, husband, and I'm going to take the kids and show them their heritage. She was very adamant about it. And we went most summers. Eventually, she was able to buy an apartment there. So we had a place to stay. And she's a history nerd like I am, to be honest. So she would take us on these big bus trips or taxi trips, whatever, to all these different old ruins here and there, and the mosques. And, there's a church in Malula that she really loves and all these things. So we have, our family is from a little town further north, and we went to a beach town a lot with my grandfather, a poet named Ali Ajindi. That was in Ladiye, which is spelled Latakia in English. I just have a lot of memories of bus rides, just traipsing around Syria, up and down the interstate. I love the castles. We would always go to see these castles. It's a bunch of some like Crusader castles all over the place, from that era. It was a really cool upbringing to get, to be able to see that stuff and experience it. And I met my family and all these, some of them are like quite well known and in like political circles, and it was awesome. Yeah.
How did those childhood trips change as you were an adult and you were visiting Syria?
Yeah. So especially in, when I was a teenager, we definitely went once or twice a year to Syria while we were living over there because it was so easy to do. That's why we moved there. And then we got back to the States. Maybe didn't happen as much, especially after 9/11. It was a little weird to travel. But we got back, especially after I graduated from undergrad and I got to see my grandpa and uncles and all of our friends there, in the middle 2000s. Probably he passed away towards the end of that decade, and we kind of stopped going. And then the revolution broke out. I was very happy to be able to go back there as an adult at least a few times and kind of have that brain and be able to share in the booze they would drink and sort of a thing, right? So my grandfather really enjoyed that part, that I had grown up to be a creative person, and my brother was a scientist and he loved that too. It was very good that we got to do that, I think. So
Yeah, that's so special.
yeah.
That's really special. What kind of booze are we drinking?
It's Bira, Carlsberg. It's like Carlsberg beer, and then whiskey, always whiskey, wallahi. And then there's a very lovely Arab liquor. It's an anisette, so it's like sambuca or all these ouzo, these licorice styled ones. It's called arak. It's arak, but in the Syrian dialect, the qaf becomes a glottal stop, so it's arak. But it's arak. If you can get it sometimes in American liquor stores or restaurants or whatever, but it's a really fun drink. It's very strong. You just pour a tiny amount of it into a glass with some ice, and then you put water over it, and it turns from clear to like a milky white. It's a really cool drink to be able to drink.
Oh.
It's mesmerizing, and I think it's lovely personally, but not everybody agrees with me.
I gotta try that. I like anisette. I like those anisette flavor liqueurs.
Yeah, if you like absinthe or ouzo or any of those, or just licorice at all, try out an arak. You'll thank me later.
Yeah. I definitely have to try that.
Yeah.
So we know the political situation in Syria has changed and it's not easy. And I can imagine it's not easy for, it's an understatement, of course, for the diaspora, for those of us outside of Syria with family in Syria. And you mentioned not being able to visit for a long time because of that. And what has that been like? What has that been like for you? And how have you been able to remain in contact with family or remain close to your roots in that way in spite of this?
Well, I mean, obviously that's a big question. There's kind of a short kind of like bullet points that you can go down. I personally lost contact with most people there. My mom did as well when things were really bad, because Damascus never got hit too bad, but there was a gas attack and bomb attack, and with just pure luck, there was like an exploded ordnance outside of her apartment there that didn't blow up, so that building was still there and all this stuff. So it got pretty close to Damascus, but it never got too bad there, which is where most of her friends and family are. And then Salamiya, which is our village, once the fighting got more sectarian, which happened really fast, they kind of pulled out of it. But we had a lot of friends in Aleppo, which got hit really hard after Russian Air Force started really bombarding. And so we lost contact with most of those people. We couldn't travel there at all. And mom just got bits and pieces, sort of the information there. And I forgot all of my Arabic. And we started to refer to ourselves as actual diaspora, which was kind of a weird little linguistic shift in our head. But it's like, we can't go back, now it's official. Towards the last few years, she kind of started getting more in contact with people. And there was one or two friends she never lost contact with in Damascus the whole time who stayed. And there, she has someone taking care of her apartment and all that. And recently, the 50-year dictatorship was finally toppled in December 2024. And we all just sort of came out of a stupor. And I was like, well, I guess we need to go back now. Like I said, without visiting there, I've lost almost all of my conversational Arabic, and I'm just barely gotten a little bit back from internet reconnection with like Palestinians and those kinds of things. But it's even mom was kind of not sure whether she wants to try and she couldn't go because there was a dictator. She actually did go a little bit before Assad fell, and it was not good. Had a scare, which meant that they were like, I guess you're never going back to Syria. And then a year later, he fled the country. And so now she's like, well, I want to go. So, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't have any plans to go there yet. Maybe wait for things to stabilize a little more in Syria before I go back. But I would love to. I would love to go there. I'd love to stay there for a while, get my Arabic back. It's like a dream. I would absolutely love to do that, but not quite there yet.
So you keep mentioning you lost your Arabic. You got to get your Arabic back. You lost your Arabic. Yeah, your Arabic back. When you're saying you're losing your Arabic, what's happening?
That's a great question. I think of it really, so there's a lot of different aspects, I guess, of like what it is to know a language. It's a very classic trope, I guess, of when somebody like me, like an Arab American, I can understand Arabic when it's spoken to me, and then I respond in English, right? So like even when I was in Syria, especially, it was like that. I would kind of, my relatives or people would speak Arabic to me, and then I would speak back in kind of like this broken Arabic English thing, and then we would kind of like get by that way because they would have about as much English as I had Arabic and that kind of thing. So one of the first things to go is my ability to respond in Arabic. Like you keep the ability to understand it longer for whatever reason, but the ability to kind of like the habit, I guess, of like getting it's the vocabulary. The vocabulary just goes. So I don't have the vocabulary in my head, even though when someone says it to me, I can remember I know what that means, which is, it's such a bizarre brain thing. And I think that's kind of why, I feel like if I was to go back there, if I was to go back for 6 months, I would gain that ability to actually keep the Arabic going instead of like defaulting back to English because I don't know enough of the actual literal words. I can't remember them to respond. Do you know what I mean? Without hearing them first. Just falling out of the habit of keeping a conversation in Arabic was enough for me to no longer be able to do it, I guess. And that probably happens in a year or two. And it would come back even faster than that. But it was just, it's an immersion thing. If I can't immerse in it, I lose it. It's like when I'm there and I'm talking to people and they're like excited to speak, I think that's what kind of, even when I'm traveling, I always try and pick up the local language. Even if I'm just there a week, I always just find myself trying to pick up phrases because I like seeing people's eyes light up when they see you trying to meet them there, Obviously, it depends on the culture. Like that doesn't work in Paris because they're sick of it. But, even outside of Paris and other parts of France, it switches back to just like, oh, he's, So, yeah, I do tend to be able to mimic sounds pretty quickly. And when I'm in it, I can kind of start to pick up the basics pretty quick. And I just like being able to connect with people like that because they can see the effort and it means a lot to them usually.
Yeah, it's valuable. It's valuable. And I feel like I'm so surprised when people travel and they don't think of doing that. They don't think of learning a few phrases, a few words to just connect with people who are speaking a different language. I think it's like a bare minimum.
Would you say that that's part? Would you say that that's part of why you like to travel? Like it's part of the fun for you is like picking up on a language, like when you go. Is that like part of your personality? Yeah,
absolutely. I love it. And I, you know what it is for me? Like, I get nervous to talk in a new language. Like I get very, very nervous and anxious about that. But I've been working on my confidence to just try and make mistakes,
Yeah.
because the worst thing is that some stranger is going to laugh at me who I'm never going to see again. I don't know their name. They don't know my name. So who cares? But I'm making an effort. And like you said, seeing the reaction to people who see you making an effort is just so different. I've had times where I've made an effort in a different language and it's changed the course of my whole day. It's changed the course. Like people just react to you differently when they realize, like, oh, you're not just here to spend money and get your pretty pictures. Like you
Yeah, yeah.
you
They mean like, oh, let me send you to the real restaurant, not the 100%, exactly, because there's like a trust there of you trying to meet them,
Mhm.
in like a neighborly way instead of like a total touristy way. I think that
Right,
makes a big difference. Yeah,
right, absolutely. Can we talk about food?
sure, always.
Always, always.
Yeah.
Love Levantine food. Love food from that region. So tasty, so fresh, so
Mhm.
delicious. What are some of your favorites?
Syria, huge cuisine. Lebanon, same. Those are kind of the two biggies, and you will find even those two countries is very diverse. I don't know as much about Jordanian food. What I've had of it is also amazing. Arabs are incredible cooks. There's
Mm-hmm.
no exception to that really. But yeah, so Syrian food is probably more than maybe any other Arab country is very focused on fresh fruit and vegetables because it has maybe Palestine, but Palestine's smaller. The difference in Syria is that they kind of have this huge breadth of climates and different types of zones that make different types of foods. So that's a big part of it, is just wherever in Syria you are, it's just the whatever fresh food is nearby. Huge part of it. And then also, I really like talking about shawarma. People argue in the Arab world about who makes the best what. Most people will pretty much agree Syrians make the best shawarma. And it ruins you for shawarma, a wrap specifically. There's all kind of different shawarma wraps and stuff, or sorry, shawarma dishes, but the shawarma wrap, the sandwich itself, it's just the best. Syrian shawarma is the best. Finally, I like to talk about kibbeh a lot. A lot of Arabs have it. It's very popular in Syria, and every city has their own way that they make it. And it's very distinct because it's different shapes. So the most common kibbeh that you'll see is football shaped. It's got a little point on the end, just a little football of like, I just forget exactly what it is. It's like baked bulgur around, or bread around like rice and bulgur with like lentils or meat and all sorts of things and spices. It's delicious. I think you and you knew the one that my mom makes, which is a loaf. You make it like oven baked in loaf, and then you cut it in a diamond shape, but in the loaf still, and that's how it's served. And it takes like all morning to make, and they complain about it all day, and then make the best freaking thing on earth. I think Aleppo has one. There's a couple that there's one that's shaped like a bar. There's one that's shaped like a donut with a hole in the middle. Sometimes they do it sometimes they make it with like raw meat, which is what it could be naye, I think that's called. I might be getting that wrong, but it comes on a plate and it's like a raw meat thing with spices. It's just all over. Every little village, it seems like, has their own little kibbeh that they make, even within Syria. So there isn't even one Syrian style of it. You have to go to the different cities and see how they make it there. Everybody's grandma makes it differently. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. So it's like how's your grandma make your meatloaf? Like there's no one way to do it. It's just what's hers. So it's one of my favorite little like niches of Syrian cuisine. It's very, and you go to Lebanon or Jordan or whatever, they all have their own version of kibbeh, but it's like a whole culture in Syria, and I think it's really fun.
Does it vary by shape only, or does it vary by filling, by seasoning?
Definitely by filling. So think of kind of like a like dumpling in like East Asia or
Oh,
something,
okay.
where
Yeah.
you'll just throw all sorts of stuff in there, and that you get. So there's vegetarian versions of it, or it's maybe like beef or lamb. The spices are always different. So yeah, every part of it changes for sure.
What do we eat the kibbeh? What do we eat it with?
So I usually will eat it plain with hummus. So it's considered an appetizer. Like it's like the tapas that come out in like the early part of your meal, which your meal might take 4 hours, who knows, depending. But yeah, it's an appetizer, and usually it's served kind of there. There'll be like, so some people do it with baba ganoush or like hamara or all sorts of dips. I like personally just kibbeh, hummus, nothing else, just like that. When my mom makes it, sometimes we'll do it with lebne, which is like kind of extra filtered lemony yogurt. So that's kibbeh with lebne, which is also very, very good. I kind of over put hummus on everything. Like Arabs will be like, "You're not supposed to put hummus on that," and I'm like, "Yeah, try and stop me. How about you know?"
You know what tastes
Kibbeh and lebne is very common.
You know what tastes really good with hummus?
Mm.
Garlic knots.
Whoa, I believe you. I believe
Next
that.
time, next time you get some garlic knots from the pizza and you have some hummus,
Sure,
try it.
it makes
Please let me
sense.
know if you like it. Yeah.
I'll get back to you on that for sure. It's always like there's like a little bit of a wariness in like the American mind because people try and turn hummus into all sorts of crazy things. So it's like, you get to the level of like chocolate hummus and you're just like, what? You're like, they can't even put tahini in it at that point because it tastes so wrong. And then at that point, is it even really hummus? No, it's chickpeas and chocolate. It's not even anyway. But garlic hummus, that even among Arabs, that's like an argument. Like, do you put garlic in your hummus? You know what I mean? Because some Arabs
Right.
love it, and other people are just like, no, za'atar olive oil only with lemon. And so it's like the garlic and bread and hummus. It's absolutely a match made in heaven. It tastes. I don't personally put garlic in my hummus when I make it, but I don't fault people who do. So I believe it is what I'm saying.
I don't put garlic either when I make it, but I think it was one of those things like I had some leftover garlic knots and like I could eat anything any time of day. Like breakfast food is not breakfast food.
I'm the
Like
same
if it's
way. Yeah.
yeah, so I had probably had some leftover garlic knots and some hummus and I was like, It's like that old commercial with the Reese's peanut butter when the girl had the jar of peanut butter and the chocolate
Oh,
bar. Like
I feel like it's a
I'm
pretty.
sh-
It's like a deep cut. I think. That one. Amazing.
Yeah. Um, or was it the Frankenstein monster? I don't remember, but you know what I'm talking about. You know
Yeah,
what I'm talking about.
that unearthed a memory. I could tell you no details about it, but that's bouncing around in there somewhere, whatever you're describing.
I'll find it on YouTube. I'll send it to
Yeah,
you.
please.
When you go back to Syria, it's been a long time since you visited. Your first day, your first full day, what are you looking forward to eating?
I'll tell you exactly. So I'm not sure I can narrow it down to one day, but the first thing I'm going to do, just walk out on the streets, and there's going to be just guys selling wraps, shawarma, whatever on the street. Buy one of those, cry probably, and that's freaking breakfast. Shawarma for breakfast. I don't care. And then for lunch, we would probably meet up with a big group of people at a restaurant somewhere, and that would be like a 4 hour event of just everything you could possibly imagine. And then for dinner, to be completely honest, this is going to sound weird, but we always used to go whenever we started complaining too much about no American food because we were 10 or whatever. Mom would take us to the Sheraton Hotel in Damascus, which I'm not even sure if it's still there. I think it is. But they had really good German ice cream and with a bunch of like Arab snacks and stuff. So we would go hang out there and have a little, and they would have sweets and desserts. There was this Amanadine, which is like a orange apricot sponge treat. It's like tangy and sweet. It's so good. Me and my brother both just love that, and just have a little day by the pool with some snacks and desserts. It'd be perfect. I'd be so happy to get just that day. It'd be so nice. The restaurant, unfortunately, that I would like to go to, I don't think is there anymore. But there's a couple of restaurants where we would go to where we'd get the full traditional Arab treatment, which is, it's sort of like lunch, but it's also like dinner. Like it's later in the afternoon because it takes forever to finish up. And then we'd go back home, and it would be at night, and we'd be tired because we just got in town. And then out on the street, somebody would be yelling, selling corn. And corn sounds like nothing too exciting or whatever, but I swear, and again, I'm from Texas. I know what good corn is. But there's just something special about these guys, and they just walk around with a little cart, and it's got a big, huge vat, and it just with like water and salt and this fresh corn, and you just go there, and they put a little bit of salt on it, and you buy it off the street, and it just like melts in your mouth, and that would be the end of the day.
Okay, corn. We're eating corn. It's corn on the cob, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is a dessert?
It's more
or like a late night snack?
It's a street food, and
okay.
I very particularly remember them. We would usually get it at night for some reason. I don't really know why it's nighttime, but yeah, it's a street cart food, and it's just one of the things. Like I said, it sounds so bizarre, but then when you realize how good Syrian produce is, like it's like oranges and that kind of thing, it would be fresh, or avocado. It's just whatever was in season, and then that's what they would sell. And corn was there a lot of the time, and it was, for whatever reason, it's just a really, really good. And I'm not even a corn guy. To be completely honest, it's not really my thing. But just Syrian street corn, man, in Damascus, very very special.
If we have corn, do we have popcorn?
Yeah, I think so. They would sell it in bags. Like you get those big clear plastic bags. We didn't really buy those, but they would have them for sure. I feel like popcorn is a pretty American thing.
Okay.
They have it, but I don't know. That's an interesting question. I don't recall really having much of a popcorn experience there. Or they'll do like sweet popcorn in a bag, which is not really my thing, like kettle corn style thing.
Well, Paul, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I've had so much fun chatting with you.
Same. This has been great. I really appreciate this conversation. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing about your language and your culture and your passions. I've learned a lot from you. I have more to learn from you. For my listeners who want to learn more from you, can you please let us know where we can find you on social media?
Sure. My two big platforms are TikTok and Instagram. My username is Paul and Matthis on both of those with 2 T's. But on both of those, if you just search Paul space Nabil, Nabil, I should come up.
Great. I will add links to those in the show notes for this episode so that people who want to follow your work, and I encourage you to do so, want to follow you on social media, will be able to click and connect with you right away.
You're too kind. Thank you.
So this is the part of the show where I'm usually getting to learn some new sounds. This is my last question, and I ask everyone this question. Do you have any jokes, popular sayings, tongue twisters, cool slang words, idioms, words of wisdom, or words of advice in Syrian Arabic to share and to teach us?
Ooh, so I thought of so many, and most of them are inappropriate. What my mom calls taxi driver Arabic. I do know one joke that I do think a lot of jokes don't really translate very well. Like it's very funny. Would just be like, did you hear about that new Homsi convenience store that opened? They have a sign that says we're open 24 hours only, and it's like that's really funny in Arabic, but in English you're just like that's not a punchline. Like ubes. Like anyway, there is one joke that I think kind of translates, and it was it's another Homsi joke, and there was a guy goes to a Homsi dentist with a toothache. The dentist puts him under, he wakes up, and the dentist took out all of his teeth except for the one that ached. And he says, "Why did you do this?" The Syrian dentist goes, "That was the only one that deserved to stay."
trying to understand this joke.
Yeah, I'm not going to explain it, but if you understand
Okay.
that, then you understand Syrian culture. It's
Okay. Okay.
uh I did want to say there's a really funny word that my mom says that we always make fun of her for, and the word is qurud, and you have to say it like that, not let qurud. It's qurud, and it doesn't have any translation. If you were to translate it, it might mean monkey, and it's like an expression of like come on, like no, but it's good, and it kind of means monkey. It's very villager. We don't really know where she picked it up, to be honest. She keeps trying to explain it to me. I never understood, but I just really like that word, and I think that a lot of Arabs at least will hear it and find that very funny. It's just so there's other translations, but I just really like monkey. I say certain things, especially now. They're very common phrases that people hear all the time, which are just like mashallah and inshallah. Inshallah is probably the most important one. Like it means if God wills it, but it really just means like nothing is certain. You know, if it's written, it will happen. If not, it won't. It's not up to us. The most famous version of it was in a meme in an Arab country where they put up they were it was a movie night, and they put up a picture of Nemo from Finding Nemo. And it's like Finding Nemo, inshallah they find him, and it's the best. It's just everything is just right there. You're like, inshallah they do find him. You're right. That's perfect. They're finding Nemo, inshallah.
Oh. Tell us inshallah, which I don't know if I pronounced that right. I am familiar with that word.
Less emphasis on the last syllable. People always want to, because they hear Allah and they're like, inshallah. It's actually inshallah. It's in the middle.
Inshallah.
Perfect.
Inshallah.
Yeah, that's great.
All right.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks for course correcting me with that one.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, thank you so much again for this conversation. Before I let you go, really quickly, if you're in Damascus, hanging out with a friend, and you've been having a really lovely conversation, let's say for past hour and a half or so, but now it's time to go home. It's time to go your separate ways. In Arabic, what's the best way to say goodbye? Don't think about it too hard.
It depends. It depends on where you are when you say goodbye. The most common way is ma salame. Ma salame. It means with peace. With peace. Go with peace. There's also a very Syrian goodbye, that's ma salame is universal. And I might even get this explanation wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's right. It's bhatrikon. And that means, so the b even is a very Syrian dialect thing. I think you usually say that when you're like leaving somebody's home, and it's like by your leave, like with your permission, that kind of a thing. And you'd say it kind of with your hand on your chest, like a thing. So I believe I'm saying that right. If I'm wrong, someone's going to come for me. But bhatrikon is another one. It's a very, very kind of, you hear it in Damascus and like nowhere else, or in Syria. I could probably, but yeah. So ma salame, always you can say that. Bhatrikon, if you're leaving their home after a lovely time, or even their space, leaving your podcast, bhatrikon, with your permission, I must go.
I love that. Well, I will say ma'a salame.
Great. Perfect.
Is it, or are you tired of correcting me?
No, it's like that thing where unless you want to learn the ayn right now in this moment, ma'a salame, perfect.
I'm a work in progress. I don't claim to be anything more, but
yeah.
ma'a salame, Paul.
Ma
thank you
salame.
so much. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you for having me.
New episodes of Speaking Tongues are available every Monday, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to like and share episodes with other language lovers like yourselves.